So perhaps you or someone you know is just getting into fragrances and they are completely overwhelmed by the amount of fragrances on the department store shelves. What I aim to do in this video is talk to you about the 10 essential fragrances that every beginner should have in their collection. And I also had a few criteria that needed to be satisfied in order for the fragrances to make it onto this list. So I'm excited to share the list with you, so make sure to stay tuned. Before I begin this video and I tell you about these 10 essential designer fragrances that I think every beginner should have in their collection, I do want to start things off by saying that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload these daily videos, and also make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or if you took something of value from today's episode. Now, in compiling this list, I was thinking about a few different things. I wanted to make sure that every single fragrance in this list was going to eventually get used, so I didn't want to throw like a novelty fragrance in there that you would have in your collection just for reference purposes. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that if you are indeed going to purchase all of the fragrances in this list, you were going to get a ton of use out of them. I also wanted to make sure that for the most part, the fragrances in this list are mass appealing. I wanted to make sure that there's a variety of different price points, that all of these fragrances are well respected in the industry and they've all made a significant contribution in the industry, and a lot of these fragrances are also happen to be personal favorites of mine. So all of these things were really important for me to include them in this list, so that you know that when you're purchasing one of these fragrances, or maybe you have a lot of these fragrances but you might be missing some of them, at least you feel like, hey, these are fragrances that have done great things. They have carried their own weight. With a lot of these fragrances, some of them have been released in the 90s. They have withstood the test of time. So with that being said, let's dive into the list, and I'm going to go ahead and share with you my reasoning for putting them into this list. So the first one that I want to talk about is a classic. This one is composed by master perfumer Maurice Roussel, who is a Symrise perfumer. That's the flavor and fragrance factory for which he works. This one, of course, is Nautica Voyage. This is probably going to be the most inexpensive fragrance on this entire list. I know this one is very aquatic. People say it smells like dryer sheets. It just has a very clean smell. It's actually one of my wife's favorite fragrances, if not her favorite fragrance. I wear it a lot when I can. This is actually my third bottle of it. I used to have the pre-reformulation version with the metal cap. Now this one has the plastic cap, but don't worry, with the price and everything, the smell is negligible. This is awesome, especially as a beginner. You're looking for a summertime fragrance. Nautica Voyage is a solid fragrance to add to your collection. Now, if we're going for something a little bit darker, I would definitely recommend that you pick up Tom Ford's Ombre Leather. Now, the Parfum version is a little bit more on the floral side of things with the violet and the iris and whatever else is in there. They're both equally spicy, but this is a really high-class, refined leather fragrance. If you like it to be a little bit on the sweeter side of things, I would recommend that you get Tuscan Leather, but this one is a little bit more on the dry, mysterious side of things. And it's also going to be far more expensive than Nautica Voyage. So this is summertime, fresh, casual, easy to wear. This is a little bit more for dressed up occasions, and this one definitely takes things on a darker route. The next one that I want to mention is another one that has received a lot of praise, and this one also happens to be on the darker side of things. This one by Lalique is called Encre Noire. I'm not entirely sure what the price of this one goes for nowadays. I know when I bought it, it was relatively inexpensive. Hopefully it's still on the inexpensive side of things, but Encre Noire, that dark, brooding vetiver that's in here, this is a classic fragrance, and we have a lot of other expensive fragrances like Sycamore by Chanel that actually smells very similar to it, except this one came out first, if I'm remembering correctly, and it's also very close to Sycamore by Chanel. So you can have a very expensive smelling fragrance for a really, really good price. This is one that I think is a must-have in any beginner's collection, especially to have it as a reference, but I do think you'll get a lot of use out of it. The next fragrance I want to talk about, you should be getting a ton of use from. This one by Giorgio Armani is Acqua di Gio Profumo. Now, of course, you can opt for the original Acqua di Gio, which came out in the mid-90s. But what I love about Profumo is the fact that it takes that Acqua di Gio DNA. It's still modern, but it adds a touch of patchouli, thus making it a little bit more versatile. So in the case that, you know, with the original Acqua di Gio, I can see myself wearing that in the summertime, in the hotter weather. This is all year long. The original Acqua di Gio is more casual. This one can be worn casually and formally, and it's also a huge compliment getter. So that's the reason why I would definitely recommend that you add Acqua di Gio Profumo to your list. And then another one that is a huge compliment getter, probably the biggest or second biggest compliment getter in this list. I had to reevaluate and reassess. This one is Invictus Aqua by Paco Rabanne. This is the 2016 version with the frosted glass. Of course, you can opt for Rasasi Hawas, which came out a year before from the research that I've done. Or you can get the new version, which came out in 2018. I know they've had a bunch of versions. The smell is pretty much the same. It's a little different, but the difference is negligible. Invictus Aqua is a great casual fragrance that takes things on a slightly sweeter direction, especially because of the tonka bean that's in here. And this one, huge compliments. Every single time I wear it, I've gotten complimented by friends, family, coworkers, random people on the street, you name it. When I was catching the train one time, this is a great fragrance. The next one I want to talk about is one that I think you should add to your collection for the reputation alone. There have been tons of flankers released for this fragrance, but I'm talking about the original Le Male by Jean Paul Gaultier. This fragrance with the mint and the vanilla and the cinnamon and just that complexity to it. This is an amazing composition by Francis Kirkjohn, released in the mid-90s. And of course, since then we've had Ultramale and Le Male Essence de Parfum, and we've had so many flankers, but this one is an excellent fragrance that everyone should add to their collection. And then of course we have what is probably the biggest compliment getter on this list. If you don't have this one in your collection, I really think you should add it. Dior Sauvage, the Ambroxan, the black pepper, the Sichuan pepper, the bergamot. It's so incredibly well done, and this is very fresh, very energetic, great for the gym, great for casual scenarios, and it also just smells very clean and very well groomed. So if you want to wear it on a date night, you can do that as well. If you want something with a touch of sensuality in the base, you can go for the Eau de Parfum or the Parfum version. Elixir is definitely on the spicier side of things, so that one is a little bit more mature, but the original Dior Sauvage always does magic. Then of course we have one of my personal favorites, and I think you should try this one because it's a lighter and fresher fragrance while still employing some very unique ingredients to it. And this one by Hermès is Un Jardin sur le Nil. The name translates to a garden on the Nile, and you have this tomato leaf ingredient in here, you have mango, you have a bunch of citrus. It's an amazing fragrance that takes things on the slightly more herbal and vegetal side of things. Beautifully done, composed by a master perfumer, Jean-Claude Ellena. And then we also have another mid-90s release. This one is called Angel Men by Thierry Mugler, or Amen. So this fragrance with the ethyl maltol, that cotton candy smell, the vanilla, the caramel, and that patchouli note in the dry down is one of the most unique gourmand fragrances ever created. It's also going to be one of the more challenging fragrances to wear, alongside with Ombre Leather by Tom Ford and Encre Noir by Lalique. However, because it does take things in a sweeter direction, if you give it a chance to dry down, it actually becomes very easy to get along with. And that harshness is probably only going to linger for like the first hour to 2 hours. And of course, I'm referring to the tar note that everyone seems to be speaking about. And the one fragrance that I do think everybody should add to their collection, this one has the complement factor, it has the versatility in terms of seasons, it has the versatility in terms of occasions, it has the reputation, it has made some awesome contributions to the fragrance industry, it's universally loved, universally appealing, and it's just such a pleasant smell, and I love wearing this one to death. This one by Versace is called Versace Pour Homme Dylan Blue. So this was basically Versace's response to Dior Sauvage. However, it does take it in a darker, more mature direction. More mature in the sense of it being like more sophisticated. Incredibly easy to wear. Always get complimented when I wear it. Probably not as many compliments as Dior Sauvage, because Sauvage is a little bit more on the effervescent side of things. It's definitely going to get you noticed. This one is probably a little bit more, not introverted, but not as gregarious, if you will, as Dior Sauvage. This one is a little bit more reserved, a little bit more conservative, but people are definitely going to smell it on you, and they're going to know that you smell good. So these have been 10 essential designer fragrances that every beginner should add to their collection. Of course, you can always pick and choose depending on how I describe them. If you are a fan of some of the darker, more brooding fragrances, then you can opt for something like an Encre Noir by Lalique. If you're a fan of some of the easier to wear fragrances, maybe something on the inexpensive side of things, of course, there's always Nautica Voyage. So you have the option. Let me know, leave a comment down below and let me know what fragrances would you recommend that all designers should add to their collection. Of course, there's so many with Prada L'Homme and Dior Homme Intense. There's so many incredible designer fragrances. I tried to give you variety. I tried to give you versatility. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload these videos to the channel, and I upload on a daily basis. And of course, once again, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or if you learned something today. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.